You don't lack potential, you don't lack intelligence, and you don't lack ability. So why do you still hesitate? Why do you shrink in moments that matter? Why do you overthink simple decisions and then regret not acting? Let's be honest. It's not because you're incapable. It's because you've built an identity around being cautious. And that identity feels safe, but it's killing your growth. The growth code, why you don't believe in yourself, and how to break that pattern. You don't lack potential, you don't lack intelligence, and you don't lack ability. So why do you still hesitate? Why do you shrink in moments that matter? Why do you overthink simple decisions and then regret not acting? Let's be honest, it's not because you're incapable. It's because you've built an identity around being cautious. And that identity feels safe. But it's killing your growth. The survival pattern. Your brain is not designed for success, it's designed for safety. If at any point in your life confidence led to embarrassment, criticism, rejection, or failure, your brain logged that experience, and it made a decision. Let's not do that again. That's when self-doubt started feeling rational. It's not weakness, it's a protection mechanism. But here's the problem. What once protected you is now limiting you. The identity trap. Most people think they lack motivation. They don't. They lack a new identity. If you secretly see yourself as the one who struggles, the one who's behind, the one who needs more preparation, you will behave in alignment with that story. Because the brain hates inconsistency. If your actions don't match your identity, you feel internal tension. And most people resolve that tension by lowering action, not by upgrading identity. That's why you don't move, not because you can't, but because it doesn't fit who you think you are. The brutal truth. Sometimes you don't believe in yourself because not believing gives you an excuse. If you never fully commit, you never fully fail. You can always say, I could have done more. I wasn't really trying. It wasn't the right time. That protects your ego, but it also guarantees stagnation. Growth requires exposure. Exposure means risk, and risk means your identity is challenged. That discomfort you feel, that's growth trying to happen. The confidence myth. Let's destroy one illusion. Confidence does not come first. Confidence is earned. You don't wake up one day feeling ready. You build readiness through repetition. Every promise you keep is a vote for a new identity. Every uncomfortable action is evidence, and evidence rewires belief. You don't need to feel powerful. You need to act powerful. Then the feeling follows. The standard shift. Here's where most people fail. They try to raise motivation. Instead, raise standards. If your standard is, I'll try, you'll stay average. If your standard becomes, I execute, everything changes, not overnight, but permanently. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. And standards are decisions. The moment that changes everything. There is always a moment, a quiet moment, where you either move or retreat, speak or stay silent, apply or wait. That moment defines identity, and identity defines life. No one sees it, no one applauds it, but that's where transformation happens. In small, private decisions, repeated daily. Strong closing. You don't lack belief, you lack accumulated proof. And proof is built through action, not inspiration, not podcasts, not more information. Action. You want confidence? Keep promises. You want growth? Move before you feel ready. You want a different life? Stop negotiating with the old version of you. Because here's the truth. Doubt may never disappear. But courage doesn't require its absence. It requires movement despite it. And the day you stop asking, do I believe in myself? And start asking, what action proves I'm serious? That's the day your identity shifts. That's the day momentum starts. That's the day growth becomes inevitable. That's the code. But let's go even deeper, because understanding this intellectually is one thing. Living it is another. There will be days when you do everything right and still feel doubt. Days when you take action and nothing immediately changes. That's the moment most people quit. Not because they can't continue, but because they expected growth to feel different. They expected momentum to feel exciting. But real growth often feels neutral, sometimes even uncomfortable. Because when you step into a new level, your nervous system needs time to adjust. Your brain likes predictability. So when your behavior starts expanding, your system reacts. You might feel anxiety. You might feel imposter syndrome. You might suddenly question everything. And here's the mistake most people make. They interpret discomfort as misalignment. They think, this must not be for me. But discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you're stretching. Think about this. If you've lived for years identifying as someone cautious, someone who overthinks, someone who plays small, and suddenly you start acting boldly, of course it feels strange. You're interrupting an old pattern. And patterns don't disappear quietly. They fight back. That inner voice might get louder. It might say, "Who do you think you are? This isn't sustainable. You'll mess this up." That voice isn't prophecy. It's conditioning. And conditioning weakens through repetition, not through arguments. You don't silence doubt by debating it. You silence it by outgrowing it, action by action, decision by decision. And here's another uncomfortable truth. Belief grows slower than skill. You might already be capable, but your self-image hasn't caught up yet. That gap creates tension. You're operating at a higher level, but still thinking from an old identity. And that mismatch feels like insecurity, but it's actually transition. You are not broken. You are updating, and updates take time. No one becomes internally aligned overnight. Even high performers still experience doubt. The difference is, they don't wait for internal certainty. They move with external commitment. They decide who they are becoming, and then they behave accordingly, long before it feels natural. That's maturity, not emotional comfort, but conscious direction. So if you're waiting for the day when you wake up fully confident, fully ready, fully sure, it won't come. But the day you decide, I don't need perfect belief to act, everything changes. Because momentum doesn't require certainty. It requires movement. And movement creates proof. And proof reshapes identity. And identity determines your future. So instead of asking, how do I believe in myself? Ask a better question. What would someone who believes in themselves do today? Not in theory, today. And then do that, even if it's small, especially if it's small. Because consistency rewires faster than intensity. One bold action won't transform you, but 100 small courageous decisions will. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You need to reinforce a new pattern, daily, quietly, relentlessly. And eventually, something shifts. You stop doubting every step. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop asking permission. And you realize you were never incapable. You were just conditioned to underestimate yourself. And conditioning can be rewritten. That's growth, not loud, not dramatic, not cinematic, but powerful and sustainable. So the next time doubt shows up, don't fight it. Don't analyze it. Don't wait for it to disappear. Move anyway. That's how identity evolves. That's how belief forms. That's how your life changes. Not through motivation, through repeated proof. And that proof begins with your next action.